Apple finishing in the green today. The stock is now 10 days in a row, its longest winning streak since 2010. The company basking in the afterglow, becoming the first streaming service to win a Best Picture award at the Oscars. Apple's only been in the biz with Apple Plus for 3 years. They won for the movie Coda. One negative headline, though, for the company reports that Apple is cutting production for its new iPhone by about 20% due to weaker than expected demand. This report comes out of Japan. We've heard these things before, Mike Coe, especially from the Japanese newspapers, which supposedly have their ears to the ground to the supply chain that exists out in Asia. What do you make of this?
So two quick things about this. I mean, first of all, my biggest concern would take place if we saw essentially concerns about or the desire to start slowing production because we saw people transitioning to competing devices, and that is not the case here. The other thing is that when I read this, I saw that it was the iPhone SE, which I think is just a subset, and I'm not sure that it's the highest price subset. As long as the demand essentially for Apple products as a percentage of the overall mobile devices market remains unchanged or continues to grow, I don't really see why this is such a huge negative. Obviously, there have been some pretty significant setbacks in terms of supply chain and things like that for a lot of technology providers. I think of this as more of as a pause. I don't see this really affecting Apple's market share at all, and that's what I'm keeping my eye on.
The SE, of course, being the cheaper phone. I mean, revenues could be down, Karen. Maybe margins would be higher, actually.
For the cheaper phone?
No, if 20% of the cheaper phone production
the mix.
Sure. Right, the mix would be better.
The mix would change, right. But I agree with, Mike's point is, to me, the main one, is it a demand issue or supply issue? Right? I sort of would think this is a supply issue. Then we get back to, is it denied or delayed, that sale? I would think just delayed. So, I'm long the stock. It's certainly not the cheapest thing I own by a lot, but I wouldn't trade out of it on a story like this.
When I think about Apple today, also on a day, and we're going to talk markets with Tony Dwyer a little later in the show, but on a day when the story in the bond market was really that, again, we're seeing the yield curve invert, et cetera. The reason I'm bringing up Apple in this conversation is because the flight to quality in big cap tech is undeniable. And we just had this conversation about Tesla and as a dividend, paying divs, why, et cetera. I mean, Apple is a company that has so many levers to pull, and even during a period where we think demand could be an issue, Apple can be buying back stock. They can be increasing dividend. Their capital markets and their capital structure dynamics are so different than any other company in the world that this is a reason why I think even on a day like this, if this was a headline that could have taken Apple down, I think their fiscal numbers that come out in 6 weeks away are really the story that people are going to want to see on margins and where demand is for a bunch of products that I think have been pulled forward.
Yeah, I think the reaction in the stock, Steve, was the most, I don't want to say surprising thing about it, but it tells you a lot about how the markets treat these sorts of rumors. We hear them time and time again about suppliers getting orders to cut whatever, because of demand issues or whatever it is. Just cut production.
Right. So I'll give you the negative. I'm still long Apple. I intend on staying long Apple. The only negative that I see is it's had an incredible bounce off the recent low. Today was an outside day, so technically it made a higher high and a lower low than the previous day, which means that it should, in theory, break trend. If it breaks trend, the trend has been up. So you don't want to see it break trend. You want a continuation of the process. But everyone's going to be talking about that 182.86 number yet again. That's the $3 trillion market cap level that it was at before it faded. The other thing I think people are going to start talking about is the auto recurring sales event to make it like a subscription stock. Are you going to want to do the auto subscription stock for your hardware? Maybe, maybe not. But I think Apple's getting ahead of the service headwind that potentially could be coming at them. Well, I shouldn't say potentially. That's been coming at them regarding the Apple Store for years. But that's going to be an ongoing headwind for years. I would stay long Apple and look for $200 sooner rather than later, even though technically you could get a little bit of a backpedal.
Are you saying that they came out with the subscription hardware plan, Steve, because they know that services are going to slow dramatically?
No, I don't think they're going to slow, but I do think that the rhetoric is out there, and I guess services are somewhere around 18% of total revenues right now. Maybe I'm a little bit shy. Maybe it's more like 19%. I don't think they're going to slow dramatically, but that is the potential, and that is definitely the rhetoric, and I think they want to stay ahead of that.
Just one more thing on that subscription. It makes me wonder, do they want to get into your pocketbook more? Do they want to have you paying monthly, and do they want to have you, Apple Pay? Do they want to provide financing? They have the credit card.
Of course they do.
Know.
I mean, they want into my pocketbook. I'll tell you that, Karen. No. But then if you think about Apple Plus as a subscription service too, I mean, you think about it. You brought up the whole dynamic of winning the Best Picture. I just think Apple, as a company that has a services target on everything that you're doing and places they can own you. I think the fact that the media companies are now dominated by Netflix, Amazon, and Apple is extraordinary and underappreciated the day after the Oscars.
Well, how should we interpret Apple's win? I mean, we mentioned that Apple's been in the business for, what, 3 years or so as a content producer with Apple Plus. And so should the other streamers be more highly valued, or should we look at them as potentially the next studios? Should folks like a Disney or a Comcast be worried because their studios have much stiffer competition from the likes of an Apple and Netflix, Mike?
No, I don't really think so. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, do we sit and watch the Oscars every single year and then figure out, okay, well, whichever studio won, that's the one that we're going to go and chase the stock now? I don't really think that's the way, investors think about things. I mean, if you have a big blockbuster, that's another story. We do see people, and we often see the Reddit crowd, for example, start chasing that a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're more interested in profit margins and revenues and ticket sales than I think we are the number of shiny trophies. Although, if you're in Karen's family, maybe that's the thing that you're paying a lot of attention to as well, because you seem to be accumulating them.
I mean, two shiny trophies in your family.
Yeah. That's really
Congratulations.
Very cool, very cool. I had nothing at all to do with any of it, sadly. But one more thing, though. These movies, I mean, those 10 nominations were a lot of small movies, right? And then they had that 5 highlights, people's favorite. They were all like Avengers this and Marvel that and Blow Up this. And that's where those tentpole movies are.
Yeah, but Netflix had 27 nominations or something like that. I mean, it's extraordinary. And as someone that at one point called Netflix just the pipes and really a conduit.
And now an owner of Netflix shares.
And now an owner of Netflix shares, and now an owner of Disney shares, and an owner of Apple shares, and an owner of Amazon shares. So, I mean, I like my exposure to both old school media and new school media, but I do think it is about content. I do think that an argument, and I love Disney's content. I think their studio is unrivaled in their ability to roll out things that are massive and the flywheel and all of that. But to say that Apple's getting Best Picture isn't a seminal moment, I think for Hollywood, I think it is. And I think it's a really important in terms of driving talent. They could always have overpaid, but now I think this is a studio that has to be respected differently.